Okay, the time is 7:40. I'll call this meeting of the Mayor and Council to order. Today is March 9th, 2015. All members of the Mayor and Council are present. We have the Chief filling in today for Mr. Sanders. The Chief is our Assistant City Manager. Mr. Sanders is sick at home with the flu. Tonight we have our invocation, and we have the pastor from Vineyard Chapel International to come forward and lead us in tonight's invocation.
Thank you. May we bow down, may we bow our heads down so we may pray. Dear God, we thank you for this wonderful day. Father, we bow down and pray because of who you are. You are the great God Almighty. We thank you for everything you are doing in this city. We bring forth our mayor in your hands, the councilman in your hands. You are the great God. We kindly ask you, God, to guide them as they make their decisions, to make life easy for the people of Snellville and beyond. You are the great God Almighty. We give you thanks, for they sometimes spend sleepless nights thinking about how to improve the lives of other people. They are here to serve. We thank you, God, for that. As the day comes to an end, we ask you, God, so that as we go home and rest, you take us home safely to our families. We thank you for this day and everything else. Through Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Now for tonight's announcements, the March 10th Board of Appeals meeting has been canceled. On Thursday, March 12th, there will be a Snellville visioning session hosted by our Urban Redevelopment Authority. It will be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Brookwood High School. On March 19th, there will be a visioning session at Briscoe Park from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., and that will be in the Betty McMichael room. On March 22nd, you can watch a rebroadcast of this council meeting on Comcast Channel 25 at 6:30. Our next regular scheduled council meeting is March 23rd with a 6:30 p.m. work session in the conference room and a 7:30 p.m. meeting here in council chambers. And our planning commission will meet on March 24th. They'll have a 7 p.m. work session and a 7:30 p.m. meeting here at City Hall. Our art commission will meet on March 16th at 6:30 in the community room. We now have with us some Girl Scouts tonight. We have Troop 3268 Cadets and Troop 15384 for the Brownies and 15391 the Junior Troop. If they'll come forward and lead us in tonight's pledge to the flag. I'm sorry, the girls are going to post the colors for us. Is that right? Come on forward. Oh, the Explorers. I'm sorry.
We are Cadet Troop 3268 and Brownie Troop 15384 and Junior Troop 15391. Girl Scouts, attention. Girl Scouts, advance. Girl Scouts, post the colors. Audience, please stand. Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Girl Scouts dismissed. Girl Scouts, post your colors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Let me say, as a former Girl Scout, I apologize, this is actually Girl Scout Week nationally, so please remember your local Girl Scouts. It's also Girl Scout cookie time, so support your Girl Scouts by purchasing the delicious cookies. And we are always looking for Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts to carry the banners in the Snellville Days Parade, so if y'all haven't already seen me about being in the Snellville Days Parade, please do so. And we shouldn't have that long of a meeting. If you want to stay after, you're welcome to come and sit up here on the bench once the council members leave. Thank you. We also have with us tonight our Snellville Police Explorers. It's Snellville Police Explorers Post 805, our award-winning Snellville Police Explorers. And we have a special presentation by the Lincoln Fill Station. If you're not familiar with the Lincoln Fill Station, go check them out. They're there in the shopping center by the old Blimpies building across the street from McDonald's on Highway 78, and they have a special gift to give to our explorers tonight. If we could get the explorers to come forward. Led by Officer Clark.
My name is Mike. Everyone calls me Tiny. It's my partner, Brad. We opened up the Lincoln Fill Station right down the street about 6 months ago. We're just a local craft beer store. Very small. Try to stick with the community. We asked Bobby what we could do to kind of do something good for the city. He mentioned the Explorers, so we did a football Super Bowl draft. Before everyone came in, they bought 5 squares that cost $100. We raised $500. We figured that wasn't enough, so we matched it and got a check for $1,000.
So while they're taking their pictures, if I could, Brad and Tiny, y'all have absolutely added an element in the city which makes us very proud, and the part y'all have played in joining this community is to be commended, and we appreciate it, and we know where your heart's at, and we look forward to a long relationship with you and Lincoln Phil.
On the behalf of the Post, Snellville Explorer, Police Explorer Post, we'd like to present this plaque to the Lincoln Fill Station for your support. Thank you for the $1,000.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Thank you, Lincoln Field, and thank you, Explorers, for being here tonight and for all the activities you do in our community. I'm reminded I skipped over a proclamation. I'm going to go back to it in just a minute, but first we're going to go forward with the recognition of our Public Works Department. Our Public Works Department has been recognized several times, but this year they are the recipients of Keep Georgia Beautiful Foundation Waste Reduction Award to the City of Snellville Recycling Center. And here to receive this award tonight is Ryan House and Jason Mealer to represent the City of Snellville Recycling Center. Usually Greg Rucker, who's our Recycling Center Supervisor, would be here. However, he is out on for medical reasons. And so if I could have Ryan and Jason come forward tonight and receive this award on the city's behalf. And it amazes me how many citizens still don't know that we have a recycling center. So if you haven't been to our recycling center, Girl Scouts, this is a great Girl Scout activity for you. We do have an award-winning recycling center there by Briscoe Park at the Public Works Building. And you can get information on our website. We accept all kinds of different materials, whether you're in the city or not, depends on what we accept. So you can go on our city website, snellville.org, for a list of those materials. We also then, I'll back up, we have our proclamation. This is Proclamation 2015-02, and this is Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. Whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Whereas 2015 is the 143rd anniversary of the holiday, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. Whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. Whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Therefore, I, Kelly D. Kautz, Mayor of the City of Snellville, do hereby proclaim the day of March 9, 2015, as a celebration of Arbor Day in the City of Snellville. I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of this and future generations. This 9th day of March, 2015. Oh, Jason, you're accepting this for behalf? We are a tree city for 14 years, so we appreciate the efforts of our staff to get us certified and to always recognize Arbor Day. We now have the minutes. Do I have a motion to amend the agenda to add some minutes?
Yes, motion to amend the agenda to add the minutes from the specially called meeting of February 17th as amended.
There is a motion to add the minutes for February 17th special called meeting to the agenda. Is there a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Witz. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 6 in favor, all those opposed, 0 opposed. The agenda stands amended. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for February 23rd, 2015 business and public hearing meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes of February 23rd as amended.
There's a motion by Councilman Emanuel, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Witz. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 6 in favor, all those opposed, 0 opposed. The minutes stand approved. Do I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes of the July 28, 2014, September 8, 2014, and November 10th, 2014 executive session minutes?
Yes, motion to approve the executive session minutes of July 28th, September 8th, November 10th, 2014, as submitted by City Manager Butch Sanders.
There is a motion by Councilman Emanuel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Howard. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The minutes stand approved. And do I have a motion to approve the February 17th special called meeting minutes?
Motion to approve the February 17th specially called meeting minutes as amended.
There's a motion by Councilman Emanuel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Howard. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That is 5 in favor. All those opposed. Councilman Kraus, you're abstaining because you weren't present for the meeting, correct? Okay. So that's 5 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention, which under our charter is a vote for. That then brings us to our invited guests. Tonight we have Mr. Wendell Hollins with us to give us a brief presentation on suicide tonight.
First Baptist Church, Snellville, right across the street. There was a young man, 10th grade, does very well in school, encouraged other kids, well-liked. Other parents wanted their kids to be like his kids. What happened? He committed suicide, sitting in his living room couch with a gun. Another example, an older man, 20 years in the service, great job, great corporate level job, custom built house, grand piano in that custom built house, Cadillacs in the garage. What happened? He killed himself in one of those Cadillacs by carbon monoxide poisoning. Third and final example, young man, 19 years old, in college, doing well, well-liked to everybody. Can anybody guess what happened? Good guess, but you're wrong. That young man was me. I wasn't suicidal, but I was depressed. An interesting thing about it was I did not know I was depressed. So, Honorable Mayor, Honorable City Council members, members of the greater Snellville community, I'd like to talk to you today and hopefully present to you an opportunity to talk about suicide as a year-round initiative here in the city of Snellville. It's an uncomfortable subject that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it needs to be addressed. I'll be sharing with you some statistics, some warning signs, and also some solutions. Some statistics. First one applies to the first two examples that I gave you. Did you know that 25%, 1/4 of the people commit suicide, showed absolutely no outward signs of committing suicide? None whatsoever. That was my first shocking statistic. My second shocking statistic was that the people will show suicidal tendencies. Some of them actually appear to get better. They seem to be on the right track, and they commit suicide. The reason being is they weren't on the right track. They were just getting their affairs in order they were planning to exit this life. Very surprising. We've got a lot of youths here, Girl Scouts, young people. That's another statistic that really shocked me. Did you know the third leading cause of suicide between 15 and 24-year-olds, the third leading cause of death is suicide? Another shocking statistic, the sixth leading cause of suicide, guess this, between 5 and 13 years old is suicide, the third leading cause of death. Young kids as young as 5 years old commit suicide. I think we need to find a way to address these issues, at least leave the opportunity for discussion. As far as the warning signs, again, sometimes there's no warning signs. Sometimes it's just something simple as somebody withdrawing from you, a change in behavior. There's no one way that describes suicide, but if we get to know somebody, if we build a relationship with them, we may have the opportunity to show some signs. And if we as a community come together and create an initiative, at least they'll take away the stigma of suicide, or when I was depressed, the stigma of depression, because some people don't want to deal with it. The interesting thing is, if you break your arm, everybody's supportive of you. But if you break your mind, people don't want to be around you, including family members can sometimes consider it a family secret. We've got to address this issue. Some other warning signs, and the number one cause of suicide is depression. Untreated depression is the number one cause of suicide. We have to create this dialogue, get people involved, and make things happen. My point here is that there's no one way to determine who's causing suicide, but the number one in all my research that shows what would prevent suicide is people having hope. That's not a foundational be-all, end-all, but it is a way to give people hope. And we can give people hope sometimes just by talking to them. We don't know who has a need to just be communicated with. Some solutions. One solution, a site that I got a lot of my statistics from, suicide.org, a wealth of information. Another professional location is a National Suicide Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-TALK. What I like about this one is not only do they help you address suicide, if you're dealing with depression, if you think somebody may be suicidal, or if somebody just needs somebody to talk to, they've got trained professionals 24/7 to help you. And on a personal level, me personally, one thing I created was a sheet I call Hope Notes. And it's got biblical references to hope, to give people hope and opportunities to make it. Another one is just common encouragement. And I'm sure everyone in this audience probably know some other ideas to help people and provide encouragement. So what I wanted to say is just take a little time to say first, thank you, Honorable Mayor, for having me here, City Council and the citizens here to talk about this issue. And also, if there's an opportunity for debate and discussion where we can put together an initiative here in the city, that would be great. Mainly, we would just need a room. I could get speakers involved to come forth from some of these organizations to talk about it and to create a dialogue. And even on a personal level, I did a workshop in Tennessee back in October. One of the men there, older guy, was actually contemplating suicide, and I still keep in contact with him. He lives in Dayton, Ohio. Each one of us can make a difference. I'm not doing that to point myself out. I'm just saying that this is a man that I never met before, but he said that I was sincere enough and I cared enough that I keep in contact with him to provide him encouragement. Nothing special about me. It's one that each one of us can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hollins. Now for our committee department reports, we have Todd Warner with the URA.
Honorable Mayor and Council, citizens of Snellville, I'm Todd Warner, and I'm here to give a report on the URA. We had a meeting on February 19th in which we discussed the upcoming Urban Redevelopment Agency initiative for a visioning series of visioning meetings, and the first one took place at South Gwinnett High School that same evening. Turnout was a little light, but the people who were there gave some really good input. We had good turnout from elected officials and staff. We worked out all the kinks on the way that the program was going to run, and which is good, because our next visioning session is this Thursday at Brookwood High School. I understand it's in the Commons, and hopefully it'll be a little easier to find than the Commons at South Gwinnett. I thought I was going to be lost forever. And then the following Thursday, March 19th, we have at the Betty B. McMichael room, we have from 6 to 8 another visioning session at the Briscoe Park Betty B. McMichael. Did I get that right, Mayor? Room. These are wonderful ways for us to get more input on the vision of Snellville that we've been working on since, when did we start that, Mayor? 2004? I know we were both involved in that. And the city has spent thousands and thousands of dollars to put forth, or to bring forth from the citizens, a vision of where Snellville should be going, from our town center to even greater development going out concentrically from that. And these visioning sessions are just a way for us to update that, to get more input from the citizens, because surprisingly, even though we've all been here for the last 10 years, we've got a lot of new faces in the city. And some of their needs, wants, and desires are a little different than those that we started talking to 10 years ago. So we need your help and the help of the citizens here tonight to advertise this. Please get it out on your Facebook, let people know that, or any other social media you're on. I think some of you are actually Twitter savvy. I'll never figure that out. But we need to get it out to the people so we can get their input, because as leaders, we need to know where the citizens truly want us to go. And these visioning sessions are a way to find that out, to feel the pulse of our citizens, and that way we can all move forward. So that's pretty much it. Is there any questions?
Questions for Mr. Warner? I have, not a question, but a comment. I didn't think of this earlier, and I apologize. The DDA only covers a certain area, but the URA covers the whole city. So possibly if we could get your organization the annexation maps, I don't know if they're in a smaller version, that possibly we could email, if we could get some input from the URA as to our future annexation plans.
We'd love to take a look at that, and I will get together with Eric tomorrow to go ahead and get a copy and make sure they get out to the other members. and that we have a copy available for not only us to look at Thursday, but also possibly for input from the citizens, if that's okay.
I don't see a problem with it. We're gonna need their input eventually, because hopefully they'll want to annex into the city, so,
Well, that's our wish, that we continue to grow and become stronger.
thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have no consent agenda tonight. That brings us to our old business. We have a public hearing on second reading for CUP 15-01. This is consideration action on application by New Bethel Deliverance and Empowerment Ministries for a church and auxiliary uses on the 3.84 plus or minus acre property, zone general business within the Town Center Overlay District. This is in Wisteria Village Shopping Center, 2410 Wisteria Drive. This is in the shopping center behind the Ryans, the old gym building. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Once again, we have a CUP 15-01 placed by the applicant, New Bethel Ministries, to request to have a house of worship and associated services at the 2410 Wisteria Drive location, which is presently zoned BG and is within the Town Center overlay. It's a 3.84 acre property with a 2,200 square foot building that encompasses one large area and then two smaller tenant spaces. It has a pool, and it was originally built as a spa or a gym and has had several reiterations of those type of businesses over the years. The Mayor and Council approved a CUP for this same location back on October 28th, 2013. Just a little more background, the property is in quite a state of disrepair, and it's had a nuisance action filed by the city for the unsafe pool. The city actually mediated and put a fence around the pool for safety, and it currently has a Liz pendants filed or liened on the property that's around $4,000. It currently also has 2 to 3 years of back taxes, nearly $60,000 unpaid. Once again, the request is to open up a house of worship with the other services. I understand there'll be some a food kitchen and things of that nature. There will a pantry where they'll reach out to people in the community. Just go ahead. There's certain requirements for the city to locate a church in a BG zoning district. The church has requested to have some variances from a few of those. They've requested to be allowed to have less than 100 feet of road frontage. They're an isolated parcel in the back of the shopping center. We're okay with that. The maximum for it is 3 acres. This property is 3.84, so they're a little bit over. And the setback is actually less than what's required. I think it requires 10, and they have 8. They've also asked for more variances to be considered from the actual city ordinances. One is the zoning ordinance. Those would be in relation to the non-conforming use, basically to allow the building as is to be repaired and brought up to code as far as code enforcement goes, new paint. I'll let the applicant speak more to that. I believe they plan on restriping and sealing the parking lot as well. They're also asking to be allowed to use the pylon sign while removing the old non-conforming signs, wall signs, and to be allowed to utilize the existing wall lights and parking lot lighting. We recommend approval with the conditions as you can find in the staff report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Questions for Mr. Thompson? Thank you. Oh.
Jason, the parking requirements, are they filtering over into the other side of the parking area, or what is isolated or owned by that building parking sufficient for what is being suggested?
From what I understand, based on the off-street parking analysis addendum that we have each applicant complete, the current spaces on the actual property are 68. Now, our code requires one space per 6 seats, and that worked out to 54 parking spaces on site. So they currently meet that. Now, our codes are a little bit older as far as parking goes, and one per six, basically. So available seats in the sanctuary. If they were to grow much more, they would need to enter into some kind of shared parking easement with, you would think the surrounding shopping center. Just, the numbers are met, but they're probably going to have a little bit higher demand than that.
Is it worth considering moving towards that ahead of time, knowing that because if, let's just, for the sake of argument, say that other shopping center says, no, you can't encroach on our parking, then that would certainly bear limit to growth in the future and an investment that they can't grow. And
Well, I mean, that's a business decision really for them to make. Right now, in my opinion, they've met the code as we have it. So if they want to plan for their potential growth, they're either going to have to, expand that parking lot in the back, bring that up to code, or receive that ingress, or receive that parking easements, which becomes a private property issue and perhaps could become a code enforcement issue down the line. Yes, sir. Sure.
I noticed that there's a food bank, food kitchen of some sort there, and I don't see anywhere where the requirements for this have been addressed in the application. We don't know the size, we don't know the frequency, we don't know the number of people who can be coming and going. Do you have any information on that?
I would allow the applicant to give you those answers. Basically, all I know is they're going to have some sort of food pantry.
I have a question. I have a serious concern about the building. I went over and looked at it last Thursday or Friday. Has the applicant done any testing of that building for mold? I have a concern that building is got a mold infestation in it. That could require several $100,000 of remediation. And I'd just like, before they get involved in this, has that been tested and they know they can or cannot afford that if it happens?
Surely. I know that the city has been tasked when we were looking at actually doing some more nuisance abatement on this property to take an exterior look basically at the surface condition of the building, but we never went inside. So I would hope Mr. Smith could answer that question.
Okay, because you can look through the front door there and you can see signs. I didn't get inside either. I don't know if I'd go into a respirator, but
Yes, sir.
I'll ask the owner.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Smith, are you going to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Good evening. It's always a joy and pleasure to be here and talk about Snellville. I had hoped that this would be as easy as this is the exact same application we had 18 some odd months ago, and we just changed the name on the application, but it seems to be there's some concern for this building in the area. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is the most blighted commercial area in the city, and it's in the downtown district area. Something needs to be done, and we have a solution today, and the church might say it's answered prayers, that I believe benefits the city. Now this, when we discuss this, this is a temporary solution for the church. The church wants to be here for only 5 years. They're looking for a facility that they can move into for 5 years, and after that they will leave the facility and they go on. This building does not meet their long-range plan. What we're looking at, the shopping center, I don't know what the percentage vacancy is, but we're looking at probably 75 to 80%. This is the building in the back. Ryan's has not been occupied for at least 10 years. We have the building can be seen here in the photograph. It's in deplorable conditions. Now, the church has secured a loan for $250,000. They intend to come in, replace the roof. The roof is leaking. They want to fix up the exterior of the building. They'll paint it, repair. We're going to do a lot of cleaning and hauling away debris. It's become a dumping ground in the back. Jason said it's a code enforcement issue. There's nobody to really go after. The owner is about to lose the property. If this conditional use permit does not go through, more than likely the bank will assume the property, and there'll be all sorts of fun stuff for Jason to do. again, in the back, I mean, it's just it's amazing what's happening. The church is gonna come in, they're gonna clean up everything. They have mentioned a food bank. Now, when we say food bank or food, twice a month on Saturdays, they give out groceries from the church to 45 households. It's only twice a month on Saturdays, every other Saturday. The traffic will be minimal. If you're any type of retail developer, you want more traffic. I think it would be beneficial to the area. I know there are some plans for this area right here. We've got 2 vacant properties. There's nothing happening. This right here is difficult to tell, but I would say that it's at least 50% vacant. Our property is right here on the corner. Again, this is a temporary solution. The church has secured the fundings. They also have the fund in place to purchase the piece of property. There are 200 to 250 worshipers on a Sunday. All of this will be confined to the parking that is existing on the site. If the church were to grow, then we would submit building development plans at that time to the city for approval, and all of that development would be on site, and we'd have to conform to all the current regulations. We don't see that happening. Of the church, 300 some odd members, half of them live in the city limits. I mean, this is a church of the city of Snellville. You guys are well aware that Snellville was really built on the foundation of its religious facilities, and I think it's a good sign that we continue to have churches that want to move into the city. What am I missing here? Wednesday nights, they have a Bible study program of approximately 50 people. One service each Sunday. I really feel that this is the best thing for the community at this time. I understand it's in the town center overlay district. I was involved in a number of plans. I saw Mayor Oberholzer here earlier. It's interesting, some 12 or 13 years ago, I was involved in the LCI district plan, and it's just now happening. So for this shopping center, I would imagine that the plan that's in place, and I went and I looked at the model out front, and it's interesting because this building's not there, it's torn down. So that's really the long-term plan for this building. It's a temporary solution. I think it fits in with what the city of Snellville wants to accomplish long-term. They want to see this area revitalized, and the church has a solution for that. They'll be here for 5 years. Maybe they sell it to another developer. Maybe they do something with the building. Maybe the building is torn down for some other development. The applicant is here. We're here to answer questions. We're looking for a favorable vote tonight so that the church can begin being members of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Chad, you heard my question of Jason about the mold. As you know, has your purchaser considered that, consider the cost involved in that? Have they done any testing to see what the extent of that is in the building?
More than likely, there are mold issues. You can remediate those. I think it's a wonderful idea to do a mold inspection prior to the purchase. That's certainly something we can do. Tonight, we are seeking the conditional use permit in order to begin the process of purchase. So that's certainly an excellent idea that we can pursue.
Would you be opposed to adding the 5-year limitation to the conditions?
No, the applicant is not opposed to that. If that has been mentioned, that if we wanted to add, after 5 years, the property's brought up to the requirements of the overlay district, they're amenable to that. They fully intend for this to be a temporary solution. They need a home. They've been bouncing around between different locations, renting in different facilities. They want to find a home. They want to be in Snellville. A large number of their members are city residents. Numbers support that 80% of the people that attend a church attend within a 5-mile radius of the church. They live within a 5-mile radius of the church. This is very centrally located for them. I think it's a win-win for both the city and for the church.
Additional questions?
Chad, and to the owners, I mean, the 60,000 plus due in taxes, the other 4,000 or 5,000 due to us, is that in addition to the 250 they've set aside to buy the property? Not that I'm prying into their business. I mean, there doesn't seem to be enough money to do the things that are here, and
That
add
number-
more remediation to that.
That number's coming off of the purchase price, so that has been negotiated within the purchase price, so it's a deduct from the purchase price.
Okay. Because the
I- I'm gonna-
conditions,
I'm going to remind council that we're here for a zoning matter, and so we need to restrict our questions and our comments to zoning issues. I don't think purchasing of the church and business models and things like that are appropriate for a zoning hearing, so I'm going to.
well, I appreciate your
call-
input.
Councilman Howard, I'm going to call you out of order for your questions and ask that you restrict them to the zoning matters, because this is something that is regulated by law as to what we are to focus on when we're making our decisions. Whether or not they have enough money to actually build this or not, I don't think is relevant. The previous applicant pulled out, and we didn't ask them any of these questions, so I think we're treading on a fine line here, and then we think we need to watch ourselves.
If I could continue, the hope would be that everything works out exactly like it's supposed to. And for a short-term solution, 5 years does it for them, apparently. That's the first I'd heard of that. I don't think we got to the point to ask some of these other questions the last time we talked about this 18 months ago, but that's neither here nor there. It's just good for us to know long-range plans with regard to this because of where it's at. I think that's important. So that's the reason for my questions and concerns, and I don't think that they're unfounded. So
Thank you, Mr. Smith. This is on for a public hearing. I'll open it up to the floor for public comment. If you would like to speak for or against this application, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Marcy Ferris, 1749 Ridgedale Drive. I would urge you to put the 5-year condition on this property.
Thank you, Ms. Ferris. Any additional public comment?
Hi, my name is Deborah Simmons. I'm one of the elders at the church. And just wanted to let you know that we are a community service first church. The food pantry that we have would probably have on location, it serves needy families. It's not a soup kitchen. It's just for people that maybe run short here and there and need some help, you know. As far as the congregation, as Mr. Smith said, it's mostly Snellville residents, so it's convenient for them. The pool area, we're going to be using that area for parking. It's going to be filled in. And basically we're here to help the community, to fit into the community, and to adhere whatever the Snellville City Council requires of us. Just to let you know a little bit about the, since, you know, that was a concern of one of the members, the taxes will be handled by the bank. The bank is responsible for that, and they have agreed to pay off all outstanding taxes. Okay?
Jerry Oberholzer, 1855 Pennystone Way. I heard my name used in vain, but as you know, I'd like to get right to this point. I'm not in favor of this conditional use permit for two main reasons. I think the first reason we got to look at, as the mayor said, is strictly a zoning. This is in our town overlay district that I've personally worked on for over 20 years to make work. We put in certain design requirements, certain issues we want. I'm not happy with the condition, especially of that shopping center, but allowing them to come forward to take this property and not do any of the requirements or bringing it up to code, I think is a disservice to all our citizens. I think we looked at what we've done on this property. Councilman Bender, about 4 or 5 years ago, worked on a project about a connection road through this property to provide access. That's there. I think every time you start looking at this property and you start allowing it a special use permit or a conditional use permit, I don't think it's in the best interest. And I think what really, I want to really address is taxes. They owe us $60,000 and another that's $64,000. The minute they purchase this property, they are no longer a tax-producing piece of property. My calculations, and if I'm wrong, that's about $18,000 to $20,000 a year they generate in taxes that fund it. When they take over as a nonprofit, that will no longer happen. 5 years is $100,000, and having sat in that center seat and tried to balance budgets and find money for police cars and parks, that's a heck of a hole. And as a taxpayer who's lived in the city 30 years, we're now going to take a prime piece of real estate and take it off the tax rolls forever. Yes, they might say they're only there for 5 years, but once they own that property, it's great for them. They can go back there and develop it and make it into a rental property or whatever, but we'll never see any taxes from it. The only thing we'll ever see from that is a stormwater fee, which probably is not very much. So I ask you to consider that. You know, we all like churches. I've worked with churches, but I would also point out that when I was mayor, we had numerous churches look to relocate on 78, and we always discouraged them because of the issue of taking away prime real estate. The Walmart up on 78, the shopping center, that originally was a West Williams Brother Lumber. It was then a Trailer World or whatever. We had a church approach us about that, and we specifically discouraged them from buying that property because we could not afford to lose prime commercial property. You might say, well, it doesn't look good now, but it still has that possibility. And I'm afraid if you allow this conditional use permit, you'll discourage any additional development around there. So I would really ask you to consider it. I know 18 months ago you made a decision to allow this, but that does not have precedence over what this property is. And I think you really seriously need to think about what this would do, what kind of message you're sending in our town center overlay, and also think about the taxes we're going to lose. As I used to always point out to the chief, I always used to rate everything by police cars. You're basically giving up a half a police car a year if you let this property go. $100,000 is approximately 3 police cars, or the salary of a police officer for 2 years. So think about that when you do that. I know it's a hard decision to make, and we don't want to say no to people, but I think you really have to look at it from that standpoint. Thank you very much.
Additional public comment. Mr. Smith, rebuttal. Oh, Mr. Warner, do you have a public comment? I think he was going to do his rebuttal, so any more public comment?
Well, might as well wait for. Hello, my name is Todd Warner. I live at 3144 Turf Terrace, Snellville, Georgia. I would like to piggyback on what former Mayor Oberholzer said. This property falls within the Town Center Overlay District. It is, although it is a very blighted area, it is what we would consider our prime commercial area. We have 2 large churches along Highway 78 that would be typically in a town's commercial area. They have been around since, if my memory serves me correct, the Baptist Church has been there since shortly after the Civil War, well over 100 years. I think the Methodist Church has been there almost as long. We looked at this property 18 months ago, and it has deteriorated another 18 months worth of rain and garbage and mold and everything else. And 18 months ago, someone came before us and said, we're going to fix this up and make it nice, and we're going to use it, and then we're going to move on. And they found that it was not financially feasible for them to do that. I would hate to see an organization that is so critical for our community as a church, as this church, to invest their time, their money, their sweat, their blood in this facility, for them to have to 5 years from now walk away from it. I don't think that's fair to the members. It's not really fair to the community. We need this property remediated from the horrible condition it's in, absolutely positively. But a threat of it going to the bank, and Lord only knows what's going to happen then, that's not a threat at all. We've heard that for years on this property. This property has been vacant for 10 years at least. The strip shopping center that was pointed to, that's adjacent to it, that's between the old Ryans and the property in question, is more than 50% full. It has a physical therapy office in there that is a great and going concern. I know Mayor Kautz's father used to work in that location at the Ace Hardware, and now it's been repurposed into a medical facility. It's a going concern, so it's not a matter of there's nothing going on there. The old Kmart, as you all know, is about to be redeveloped into a new home store. We need to leave our options open so we can have this developed in the way that our vision that we've been working on for over a decade, that all of you have had a hand in, is able to take place, rather than looking at the short term, how will we get the grass mowed and the windows not be boarded up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Additional public comment. With that, I will close the public comment portion of this agenda item. Mr. Smith, would you like to respond?
It reminds me of the old days with Mayor Oberholzer. Okay, so we're living a little bit in la-la land here. I am former Mayor Pro Tem. I do care about the city. I'm a fifth-generation Guanetian, and I passionately feel that this is the right thing to do. I'm not saying this because this is my client and I want to win some sort of approval here. I believe that this is the right thing to do. This is the right thing because this area of the city is not prime commercial real estate. It is very different, dramatically different than Highway 78 and 124, and all of you should know because you're working passionately to try to alleviate traffic from those two arteries. This property does not have the traffic counts that the other two have. That is an extreme disadvantage to redeveloping this property, and that's why we'll never have high-end development, retail development here, which is another struggle. I mean, we're all seeing, it's amazing that Best Buy is still around. It's a struggle all over the country to find areas. Snellville is really amazing in that the majority of our shopping centers are full. This one is not. This one is an exception, and there's a reason for that. I would submit that without government assistance, without the city purchasing this piece of property, providing some sort of tax incentive, this property is not going to be developed according to that plan. The plan is unbelievable in its expectations of what can happen in reality. Now, look, the Platter Zyber, those people, she went to Princeton, okay? Princeton is where I received my master's. She is very good at what she does. She is an academic. Sure, they have one development that's well known. They wrote some books. I mean, it's certainly some ideology you can get behind. But Snellville has to deal in reality, and what we have right now is a blighted piece of property. We have an owner who wants to come in regardless of if they can pay for it or not. It's not my concern if they can pay for it. If they get to the point where they can't pay for it, we're back where we started. At least we tried. I say we try. I say we at least give them the benefit of the doubt, that we go in there and we try to improve this piece of property. It's for a 5-year term. I do not see anything happening on this piece of property for the next 5 years. I don't know what the home was. There's some speculation about future tenants going in. I don't know what the lease is for those tenants. There's a lot at play here that needs to happen in order for that town center vision to happen, and I hope it happens. Again, I was a part of the Livable Centers Initiative, and it's not the same. It hasn't been implemented the same that the original plan was. Plans change over time. There's simply a path to follow, a direction to chart. We can answer any more questions. It sounds like from talking that inspections have been done on the building and that there was no mold, there was no radon. The building's in actually pretty good shape. So I guess that's it. We would hope to have a favorable vote tonight. Certainly can answer any more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does anyone have any questions?
Mayor, I have a question for Jason, if I can. It was brought up in work session, and I think it was alluded to here as far as conditions go, with bringing it up to town center standards in 5 years, putting a 5-year sunset on that, and like the sign, making that have to be in compliance in 5 years. But this is a property ownership situation. What happens, and what ability does the city have to, in 5 years, we get down the road 5 years, and now they have to bring it up to town center standards. I mean, how does the city effectively do that? I mean, how does it practically happen? They don't have they don't have the money to do it, so what happens from there?
Well, there's two ways. There's basically, they would either have to come and apply for legislative relief from you guys, and you could limit it in two ways. You could limit the terms of the CUP to 5 years, and you could also limit that the property be brought up to code, and not just town center code, but the current codes of the time. If those change, you're marrying them to the codes at the time, and that means landscaping and all those things. And then at that point, if they're in violation of a zoning ordinance, which is basically a law that you've legislated, then it becomes an enforcement issue, to where we through code enforcement would take care of it, and they would, just like we have on other zoning laws, issue citations. You could go down the nuisance abatement kind of thing. If it were still in poor shape, you could go down that path too. So those are your two options as far. It becomes an enforcement mechanism, just like any other law. And
Mr. Thompson, didn't we do something similar with I can't remember the name. Mr. Smith, were you the lady on 78 that wanted to turn it into an office, and we gave her a time that expired? She just came back in front of us. Didn't we do something with that?
Yep, it's similar. If she would have chose not to abide by, the zoning, then we would have, at that point, begin to, issue citations and warnings, and then go down that path. So those are your two ways.
But I guess really, though, in the end, so we could limit the CUP for 5 years, but let's say they're going okay in 5 years, but they're not in good enough shape to be able to move out and go somewhere different. I mean, so the city just cuts off their CUP and they can't be a church anymore. Now they're stuck with a piece of property they can't use.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that, I just don't see this playing out very well in real life.
Then they would almost be forced to repurpose the property or face the financial detriment that comes with not being able to occupy or generate any funds to pay the mortgage, basically. Then it would probably go back to the bank at that point, if it got to that point, if that was if that's what really would happen. So.
Okay, I'm going to open it up for a motion, and then we can debate the motion. I have a motion on this CUP 15-01. Somebody has to make a motion one way or the other.
I'll make the motion. Just need to get back to the number here, make sure I state it right. I make a motion that we deny the CUP 15-01.
There is a motion by Councilman Bender. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Howard. Is there further discussion?
Well, just give you my reasoning here. This is a very, very difficult decision. We're considering allowing a church to come into this property, and it sounds like all great things, and we do have our churches. We've got quite a few churches here in the city. I think we pulled a list, or we've got over 30 churches located here in the city. But the town center area and the downtown development is something that I've been passionate about. It got me involved in the city, and the latest town center plan that we have, designates this area as just total different uses than having this church here. And I hear the commitment to do something for 5 years, but there's no guarantee that that's really what's going to happen. And I really think for the long-term vision of the city, in my mind, it's just too important to me that we stick to, as much as possible, what our town center plan is. And for me, this just doesn't work in there.
Go ahead, Doug.
It's kind of a difficult situation I'm really struggling with, and I think the thing that resonated most with me is Mayor Oberholzer's comment that it's not fair to the members of the congregation. I think there's, regardless of whether this is repurposed properly, whether they have the money to do it now or later, we've got an awful lot of work that has to be done just to get to that point. And when you get to that point, you're only talking about 5 years. And 5 years goes by very quickly. And I'd love to see this property turned into something besides what it is now, but I really have a problem voting for something that puts people in what I believe to be a bad situation. It's a lot of money, it's a short term, and I don't think it's a good solution. I'm still struggling with this, but it just seems very, very unfair to the people of the congregation.
Mr. Howard?
Well, as Councilmember Bender pointed out, it is a very difficult situation. Nobody likes to say no to anybody. But with the loss of Kmart, but the not automatic, but almost within months, a commitment from Garden Ridge to bring a new retail facility there and do some upgrades in landscaping, and a big commitment from them to repurpose that portion of the shopping center. I'm encouraged that when one does it, there'll be others that get that attention. And so as much as I would like to do something with an old, ugly, empty building, I'm just not convinced this is the right thing to do at this time.
Go ahead. I said this was going to be a short meeting tonight. I wasn't going to get into any trouble, but wow. Sometimes the actions of certain members of this council just baffle me. 18 months ago, this almost identical application was before this mayor and council. It was a church, it was a different applicant, but it was almost an identical application, and there was no hesitation by members of this council to pass it. There were no questions about how much it was going to cost. There were no concerns as to whether the church at that time would have enough money. There were no questions about mold. At that point in time, we had Hobby Lobby that was thriving, and there were no concerns about this being repurposed and being a commercial area. There was no hesitation. I think Ms. Ferris got up and she spoke against it, and I actually agreed with Ms. Ferris and said, we shouldn't do this because this is part of our town center vision. And I was the only opposing vote at that point in time. We now have almost the exact same applicant coming forward, and they're saying only 5 years. You can still do your town center vision, but we'll only have 5 years. And there's all this hesitation. So to me, we've set a precedent 18 months ago with a different church, and I'm not going to go there, but there's very few differences between that application and this one. There may be one difference, but there's very few other differences. And this council is bringing up all these questions, and I think it sets a bad precedent for this city. We talked about this piece of property in our retreat. At that time, we knew that Kmart's was going out. We didn't know that Home Goods was coming in. We discussed whether we wanted to do something as a city with this whole shopping center. And at that time, we as a group said, no, we don't have any funds. We can't move forward. And so I just am baffled tonight as to how council can rubber stamp an application 18 months ago and have all of these concerns tonight. I think you're doing a disservice to our community by picking and choosing which applicants you're going to approve and which applicants you're not going to approve when it's for the same purpose. It's not our place to judge their business. If after 5 years they want to leave and it's a disservice to their members, that's their business. Our business is whether this is a good zoning or not, and that's all we should be concerned with.
Mayor Couch, for the record, I would like to state and clarify that I was not on council when that last vote took place.
Can you tell me when that application was?
I I can assure you, I was sitting right back there in the second row to the back, and I disagreed with the decision when it was made.
When the application was?
Do you not believe the
October 28th.
councilwoman?
2013.
2013, Ms. Bender, I believe you were,
No, she got elected November 2013.
I apologize.
I don't think you can compare what we're discussing tonight with something 18 months ago. I mean, you can do it saying this is the same, but things have happened. We have had discussions about that property. We have action on our property on Wisteria. Things have changed, situations have changed. This is not the same thing as it was 18 months ago. We're not in the same situation we were 18 months ago, and the situation has changed. So to try and make this council look like anything other than it's being cautious and doing what it feels is best for the city of Snellville is disingenuous at least that. So again, please, whatever happened 18 months ago and whatever happens tonight, and we also learned that 18 months ago, those people that did it, when we approved it, they couldn't do it. That brought up a lot of different questions for a lot of people in this council on why that didn't happen. So, maybe we are looking at it a little bit closer, but we're looking a little bit closer because of the experience that happened 18 months ago. And has nothing to do with the applicant. It has everything to do with the town center plan, with what our vision for the city is, and how this would can hinder that.
Mr. Smith?
And
Mr. Smith, there's a motion. Would your applicant like to withdraw at this point in time or go forward with the vote on the motion? You may have a moment to discuss that.
well, and while they discuss that, I'll take the opportunity to.
Mr. Howard, you haven't been recognized.
Okay, I'll just wait.
Discussion. I think we are going to withdraw at this time. Who knows what the future holds? It's hard to say. I think we're all on the same side here. We all want the best for the city of Snellville. We have different opinions. I don't hold any animosity towards anyone because of the way that they vote. I always try to see both sides of an argument. So I do understand where each of you are coming from. I am a little disappointed, but we all want what's best for that piece of property. So we will withdraw at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. That then brings us to item B, second reading CUP 15-02,